A macabre house can be seen surrounded by fog. Inside, a man with a burn on his leg begs for more time. In front of him, a man who looks like a mafioso, the one who burned him, says that if someone owes him money, they should sell their organs to pay. The crazed man with a scar over his eye says the guy needs to feel more pain. Only then will he understand the feeling of not getting his money back. The woman standing behind him seems to be typing on her phone. Noticing this, the mafioso is visibly surprised. He quickly snatches the phone from her hand, startling her. He asks if she was calling the police and says it wouldn't help anyway. Looking at the phone screen, he's surprised. She was texting her son, saying she couldn't talk at the moment and that he must not come home under any circumstances. The maniac says that instead of hitting her, he could just hit her son to make her suffer. She screams in desperation, begging them not to hurt her child, as two henchmen restrain her. The mafioso tells the goons to shut both of them up so they won't say anything. He sarcastically says he doesn't want to hurt her son as she's being tied up. The door opens and the mafioso, wearing a crazed grin, says the son has arrived. A boy in a school uniform and backpack has his hand on the doorknob, ready to open it. He looks bored, maybe even sad. Slowly, the door begins to open. The mother, gagged and tied up, mentally begs him not to come in. Almost half the door is open and the tension fills the air. The boy opens the door and sees no one since the armed henchmen are hiding behind the walls. Calmly, he removes his shoes and puts down his backpack as he enters the house. He walks quietly through the home in his socks. A red-haired henchman attacks him with a bat from behind a wall. The blow lands directly on the back of the boy's head. His mother sees it and starts crying, unable to do anything. The henchman realizes the bat suddenly won't move anymore. Suddenly, the boy lands a powerful and precise punch on the henchman's face. The man crashes to the floor badly injured, and everyone stares in shock. As the realization hits them, they're stunned by what just happened. The white-suited mafioso is terrified and wonders what the hell that is. Radiating a powerful aura, the boy stares him down with a clenched fist. The boss orders his men to take the kid down quickly. He dodges a strike from a bat swung behind him. Then he lands a solid punch into one man's ribs. The hit is so powerful that it breaks the enemy's bones. The man feels the impact, spits out saliva, completely stunned and in pain. The kid strikes again in the same spot, shattering more of the man's ribs. Screaming in pain, the man's face twists into a horrible expression of desperation. The boy sees a kick coming from another enemy. He dodges it with sharp reflexes. In response, he kicks the man's knee, making him scream in pain and agony. A blonde thug tries to attack him from behind with a chair. The hit lands directly on the boy's head. He stares at the blonde as if he didn't feel it at all. The thug is terrified to see the chair shattered and the boy still standing. In a flash, the blonde is thrown across the room, crashing into a wall, startling the boss. Overcome with fear and shock, the mafioso asks what the hell this thing is. He pulls out a knife and looks at the tied-up hostages with malice. He mockingly asks the boy if his dad can still walk after getting beaten. Suddenly, an iron appears right in front of the boss's body, surprising him. The boy smashes the object directly into the man's face. His parents see it all and are stunned by what they've just witnessed. We're shown the enemy's head embedded in the wall. On the other side, the mafioso says his neck really hurts, tells someone to call 119, and asks if anyone is still there. He angrily yells if no one else is left, and we see that the boy defeated everyone. The boy breathes heavily, recovering from the fight. His father watches him while his mother closes her eyes, slightly relieved. The boy unties his parents afterward. He asks them if they don't want him to fight, then they shouldn't be so poor. Suddenly, he collapses to the floor, and his mother screams his name in despair, Kang Sunwoo. A while later, we see a large building. It's a hospital. Inside, there are several people screaming and groaning in pain in the rooms, along with the doctors there. A well-dressed man in a suit and glasses is standing at the hospital reception. He asks a young woman why all that chaos is happening. The girl says a loan shark kidnapped a guy's parents and he defeated 10 henchmen. That had been done by a high school student all by himself. Upon hearing that, the man is shocked by the situation. The loan shark tells his goons to finish him off immediately, but one of his subordinates says that Kang himself is the one paying the hospital. A blonde guy says that the black bear is coming and that the protagonist is done for. The man at the reception grows curious upon hearing the name Black Bear. He asks which room the high school student is in, and the receptionist says it's 202. Suddenly, he runs toward the room. While running, he says that if the black bear is in the area, he's a good candidate for a fighter, and this might help him verify the candidate. He stops in front of the room door. The man in the suit reads the name Kang on a little plaque and says that, unfortunately, he got involved with him. He looks through the small window in the door and says he feels sorry for that student. Inside the room, we see Kang and an extremely tall and muscular man, something that shouldn't be human given his abnormal physique. The black bear says he never thought they'd call him just for some random high school delinquent. He adds that Kang shouldn't blame him, but he also has debts to collect. Staring at him, the bear says the protagonist is quite an interesting guy, because even after seeing the monster in front of him, he doesn't seem scared. Kang removes the IV from his hand, preparing to fight. The monster says he has to show the kid what true fear is and raises his hand to attack. Kang quickly counters with a powerful punch to the face. The same man in the suit is still watching through the window and says the boy is very fast. The bald man easily brings down the protagonist with a single hand, stopping him cold. Kang feels the impact as he hits the floor hard. Still watching through the window, the man in the suit says that, as expected, the bear would win. The monster says that no matter how crazy Kang is, if he attacks him, he'll take him down, and adds that Kang is nothing special and will die just like that. With a shocked look, the bear questions how Kang is getting up. The protagonist says he talks too much for someone who is nothing. Furious, the man gets pissed off by the kid's mockery. He says that's exactly what makes finishing someone off so fun, and charges at the boy with a crazy grin. The man at the door questions if he's really going to kill the boy and says he needs to stop this now. Kang dodges the blow, leaving the bear surprised. He counters the punch with a clean kick to the bald guy's face. With a stunned look, the man watching can't seem to believe what just happened. The bald guy's face is deformed after the blow, and he falls to the ground. He says he's never even heard of the black bear being knocked down. But the man doesn't give in and gets back up in rage. Still observing, the man says that, as expected, there's no way someone known as the King of Physique in the whole country would be taken down so easily. The muscular man asks Kang if he really thought he'd fall after taking a kick from a mere student. But the protagonist immediately lands a solid punch on him. From the door, the guy says none of this makes any sense. Kang throws another extremely powerful punch. The bear seems dazed after blows like those, but still he grabs Kang with his large, strong arms and squeezes him. He says he'll have to use his best move against a high school student. Alarmed, the man who's been watching says that's the black bear's signature move, called the Bone Crusher, and that he has to stop this now. The monster crushes the boy against his body with full strength. He says, like a madman, that the protagonist is starting to look ridiculous. Finally taking action, the man in the suit enters the room and tells the bear to stop. But the muscle-bound man doesn't stop and squeezes the boy even harder, who is now in a tight spot. The guy who tried to stop everything is now terrified by the situation. Silence fills the room, and everyone remains frozen in incredible tension. Noticing something, the bear is surprised. He wonders if his senses went numb and confirms they didn't, that he used all of his strength. Kang moves and places his hand on Kang's shoulder, startling the man with the boy's presence. He asks how the protagonist is still moving and how his bones haven't broken. Furiously, he squeezes the boy's body with all his strength and says this time he'll go all out. Kang slowly begins to stand up from the blow, and the brute asks again why his bones haven't broken yet. The protagonist is actually getting ready to deliver a monstrous headbutt to the bald man's face. On the floor, the man asks if the boy reinforced his bones with metal or something else. Kang delivers another headbutt, probably even stronger than the last, crushing the man's face. The man's face becomes completely deformed after the brutal blows. With several insane headbutts, the boy continues tirelessly. The guy in the suit tells the boy to stop because the bear is already unconscious. He tells Kang to calm down for now. He also says that if the fight escalates, it'll be hard to clean up the mess. He makes a phone call and says that in room 202, Building B, a man has suffered a cranial injury from a car accident. Kang asks who he is and questions if he's with the criminals. Seriously, the man says that if that's how things are, he would like to propose some kind of partnership with the protagonist. Kang immediately asks what kind of bullshit the guy is talking about. Several people wearing strange outfits and carrying suspicious equipment enter the room. Everyone looks at the black bear's body lying on the ground. They ask the suited man if they should wrap this up. The man asks one of the people in strange clothes if they can assume the bear won't regain consciousness for now, and they say they'll begin. Kang just watches them work silently and questions what the hell is going on. He seems upset by the situation, clearly not understanding any of it. Handing a card to the boy, the man in the suit says the contact on it is someone who can give him what he's looking for. Kang takes the card and looks at it, still confused about the whole situation. The man says that all Kang has to do is fight for the one he serves, and on the card we see some kind of symbol with a syringe. Kang crushes the card and tells the man to go to hell, clearly pissed off by everything happening. He gets up and walks out, throws the card in the trash, and says he's not interested in making money by fighting. As he leaves, he wonders what kind of scam the guy was trying to pull on him. Watching him walk away, the man says the boy has good judgment, but that such a mindset could easily change at any moment. Later, in the bathroom, the protagonist washes his face after the intense fight. He says that even though his life is a mess, he still wants to fulfill his mother's dream, which is simply for him not to get into fights. A man in a brown coat, who must be the boy's father, opens the bathroom door and asks what he's doing there. Still by the door, the man asks where Kang thinks he's going in that condition. The boy asks what he means by that condition. Angrily, the boy asks who he thinks is responsible for that condition. He asks his father if he wasn't once a boxing champion and why he didn't do anything, how he ended up with massive debt. Kang, still furious, says the man's champion pride is so great for a local gym, and he doesn't even know why he was kicked off the national team. He ends his angry rant by saying that his father's worthless pride is more important than his mother's health, who is sick and weak. The man remains silent. As he leaves, his father tells him not to think about leaving the hospital. Still standing and looking at the door, Kang says he hates all of this. Suddenly, the boy starts to feel dizzy. He collapses to the ground and says his head hurts. He thinks he hasn't been sleeping much, but adds that every time he sees his father, his head always hurts. With a sad expression, he says to himself that he hates his father, that the old man would barely bring any money home and always had major injuries. Kang says his father would bow to the parents of the bullies he beat up and that he doesn't want to depend on him for anything. The boy says he doesn't want to believe that his father thinks he did everything he had to do, but it seems like he's just falling deeper into a hole. He says that, as a high school student who can't even get on a fishing boat, changing his life is impossible, and that he can't even make enough money to cover the daily household expenses. We see a group of young guys calling him to play, and Kang runs off saying he's busy. Then, in his memories, he sees some guys smashing his motorcycle, saying he's screwed. Because of these late-night bullies, his father's debts have only gotten worse. He also says he can't leave home because he doesn't want to and can't abandon his mother. He ends by saying his life is a complete mess. Next, we see Kang waking up on a stretcher wearing patient clothes. He wonders if he passed out again, and when they moved him to a different room. Picking up his phone, he wonders how long he's been there. He sees a message from his father and finds it strange. In the message, his father says the time has finally come to tell Kang everything that same night. The boy wonders what else the man has been hiding. After that, he looks for messages from his mother. He calls her, looking for news about his beloved family. When she answers, he asks the lady if everything is okay. The woman tells Kang not to go home because there are gangsters hiding there and it would be too dangerous, and the boy is surprised. The woman adds that he should stay where he is because she moved him to another room, changed his name, and because of that he'll be safe, and he asks where his mom is. She says she's hiding near a police station in a motel, and that he shouldn't worry about her and can't stay on the phone for long. The woman says Kang shouldn't move around for now and that she's hanging up now. The boy remains standing after the call ends. He gets mad at himself and says it's his fault for getting her involved with those guys. He runs out, saying he needs to meet up with his mother first. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing and he sees it's his father calling. Kang answers and greets the man, but on the other end, someone asks if he's Mr. Kang's son. The boy confirms the man's question and asks who he is. The man says something bad happened and that the protagonist's father collapsed and is unconscious. The boy is shocked by what he hears. We see the protagonist's father on the ground with many injuries after collapsing, and two of his friends are around him. Sometime later, in the intensive care unit, we see Kang next to the bed where his father is hospitalized with his whole body bandaged. The man is unconscious and breathing through machines. A doctor says the surgery is very complicated and that just the cost of the surgery exceeds 100 million won, not to mention the following years of expensive treatment. Kang breaks down inside, crying over the difficult situation his father is in. The boy cries alone in the corner, drowning in his thoughts. He blames himself for everything that's happening and seems to regret everything he did and said to his own father. The boy is completely lost, not knowing what to do. But in a flash of memory, he remembers the offer made by the man in the suit and the card he threw away. He runs off saying he needs to find that room where the red card was thrown in the trash. Returning to the same place, room 202, where he fought against the black bear. He opens the door after running hard to get there as fast as possible. He searches for the card on his knees in one last hope. Unfortunately, he doesn't find the card in that trash. The protagonist starts blaming himself again in immense despair. Crying, he apologizes to his father, saying there's nothing he can do. In deep sadness, he says it would have been better if he had just been finished off. In a last stroke of hope, the same man in the suit appears at the door and asks if Kang is looking for the card by any chance. He asks if, by any chance, the boy changed his mind. The protagonist quickly asks how much the guy can offer him in payment. The man says he'll earn at least 10 billion won, and Kang is shocked by the amount. The same man adds that even if he doesn't win, he'll still gain popularity and consequently a lot of money, and he asks if Kang will come with him. In a different room, both are sitting at a table facing each other. The man in the suit tells the protagonist to do it in his own time and not to rush signing the papers. Reading the paper, Kang finds the name Fighting Ward strange and asks what it is. The man says it's a fight tournament that takes place underground, and its fighters are monsters with very high physical abilities due to illegal drugs. The protagonist says he won't use that kind of forbidden drug called doping. After that, the man opens a suitcase filled with various vials containing different liquids. He says that it's not just any ordinary doping, and depending on the type, it can give a man on the brink of death supernatural strength. But he adds that, obviously, doping is optional and not mandatory. Kang asks who exactly the man standing in front of him is. The man apologizes for the delay in introducing himself and says his name is Kim Min Seok and that he works for a VIP client of the Fighting Ward. He says that what really matters right now isn't who he is, but the issue of doping. Kim says there hasn't been a single winner who won without using some form of doping. Kang says firmly that he already said he won't use it, and the man tells him to at least listen before fighting. In his thoughts, the protagonist is pissed, thinking that Kim clearly isn't listening to him. Kim explains how things work. If Kang enters the top 20 fighters, he can choose a sponsor. At that point, he can pick the VIP that Kim works for to sponsor him and go toward victory with their support. Something simple. Kang says he accepts and asks them to just give him the money already, since that's all he needs. Kim says that's a problem because he'll only get paid if he enters the tournament, and Kang is surprised. He asks if the guy is kidding and wants to know if he'll have to work with him. Kim tells him to calm down and asks if the money he needs is to keep his family safe and healthy. Kang is confused by that and asks who he is and what he's talking about. Kim says that as long as the protagonist fights for his boss, his family will be safe and his father's hospital bills will be paid, and they'll even keep the debt collectors away from all of them. The boy immediately asks how he's supposed to trust Kim out of nowhere. Suddenly, his mother calls, and he quickly answers. He asks if something happened to her, fearing the worst. She says she heard that Kang paid for his father's treatment and even sent bodyguards to protect him. Kang doesn't know what to say in that unexpected moment, and Kim says that a safe house is being prepared where his father can rest in peace. The man says there isn't much to be done since the protagonist doesn't have many options. Kang then tells his mother that the people who are there, all of them, were sent by him, and tells her he has to hang up and will see her later. His mother calls his name in concern, but he just says he'll call her back later. Kang looks relieved after the situation with his family is somewhat under control. He asks what all this is and whether it will be deducted from the 19 billion won. But Kim says the 10 billion is just the starting amount, and Kang is shocked, because depending on how many people bet on him, the total amount keeps increasing, and with a victory he could earn up to 15 billion won. Kang says that's insane, but the man adds that it's definitely not impossible. He also says that for high-level fighters, that amount is actually low. Kang is deeply shocked to hear that. But he learns that some average competitors might pass out or even lose their lives, and in fact, only 10% of the preliminary contestants leave the tournament unscathed. Kang says it's insane that so many people lose their lives, and yet the Fighting Ward remains hidden. Kim says that's precisely why it's a secret tournament, because even the people who die are hidden, and Kang is horrified. Pointing to the line, he tells the boy to sign the document right there. That's the first step in creating a death alibi. The protagonist is terrified when he hears about the alibi. Kim says the hospital sponsors the tournament because it's the best place for manufacturing death alibis. He says that by placing a camera in a specific spot and making a purchase in the person's name, there's no death they can't fake. The boy asks what happens if he reports this and what they do to him. Kim says it wouldn't be hard to say he's a lunatic on heavy meds, because who would believe something like that? He also tells him not to worry because he would be declared dead before even having a chance to report anything, and the boy says this is madness. Staring at him, Kim says this is the beauty of the hospital system. He repeats that this is a choice solely for the protagonist, Kang Seonwoo, and he asks if he's going to sign, with a convincing look on his face. He says some people take days to think of an answer to that question. Kang tells Kim to just keep his promise and sits down to sign the paper. The man suddenly puts on an extremely malicious smile as he watches Kang pick up the paper. Suddenly, a nurse approaches Kang from behind, and he questions her. But out of nowhere, she jabs a syringe into the protagonist's neck, leaving him confused. He pulls the needle out and angrily asks what's going on there. The effect kicks in quickly, making the boy faint. Kim apologizes and says it's just anesthesia to take him to the arena. He tells Kang to remember that his relatives will only be safe if he fights in the tournament. After some time, the young man starts waking up to a bright light and a silhouette in his eyes. He wonders if he's dead, because this is such a strange situation. He opens his eyes fully and sees a guy in strange clothes, mentally questioning what they're doing to him. Soon he hears several noises from people coming through a door. The boy is lying on a stretcher and asks the man where he is. The guy just tells him to stay quiet and keep moving because soon he'll find out what kind of place that is. He finishes by saying with a fearful look that this place is hell. In a different building, we see two men talking. One of them is the vice leader of the Hosen group. His name is Cha Yunwoo. He asks Kim, who's there with him, if this really makes any sense. He's looking at a photo of Kang and asks if a young high school student is really their new representative because he managed to defeat the Black Bear. Kim replies yes and says even Vice President Hagnam laughed at the idea when he first heard it. A bit irritated, Yin asks why that is. Kim replies that he needs the vice president to underestimate them because of Kang, no matter how ridiculous that idea may seem. Yin questions if he's saying that with just this one student they could bring Hagnam down. Kim says they examined Kang's body after the Black Bear's move called Bone Crusher. He says the boy's physical condition is beyond what anyone can imagine. The vice leader immediately questions what he just said, sounding very surprised. Elsewhere, we see Kang waking up with the silhouette of a man kicking him in the face. He jolts awake, startled by what he's seeing. Then a man in a strange uniform points a gun at the guy in black, ordering him to back off. The guy says it was just a joke and backs away. Suddenly, a drone starts speaking, telling Kang to get up and says the registration is complete, and the protagonist asks what that is. He comes to his senses and wonders where he is and why he's wearing this uniform. The drone warns that the first random battle is about to begin, and Kang gets scared. The system says that the first match will be determined based on the suitability of 200 fighters who must proceed to the main battle arena. It adds that this is the doping test system, and that each fighter has received a random doping shot that will enhance their physical attributes, and that, at that moment, the VIPs are watching the fights and placing bets on the winners. Kang's opponent soon grabs his doping shot to use it, but the protagonist says he's broken promises before, like not fighting others, especially to his mom, but he won't break the one about not using those drugs. He then hears a scream behind him and gets startled. Looking back, he sees the opponent's doping syringe on the ground, surrounded by blood. Then he observes his opponent with an incredibly strong and altered appearance, completely out of control. With a terrifying face and an insanely intense purple aura, he says he received the power doping. Kang wonders what the hell he's seeing. In the blink of an eye, the opponent jumps and charges at him with a double kick. The protagonist quickly dodges, and the blow hits the wall hard, cracking and even breaking it. Kang questions what kind of monster he's looking at. The enemy's body structure now appears much larger, muscular, and bizarre. Noticing this, the boy wonders how those muscles appeared on the guy's body since they weren't there a moment ago. The camera drone is just hovering there, while the rich people watch the fight from behind. This device announces that the fighter Han Chae-yeol has successfully boosted his power. Han says he hit the jackpot by powering up with doping, and that his luck is the best. He also says he wants to get out of that place and crush the guys who used to mock him for being skinny. He suddenly jumps and charges at the protagonist. He says he's going to annihilate this little brat standing in front of him, referring to Kang. The protagonist, with a bit of mockery, punches him in the face. Kang assumes a boxing-like stance and gets ready to fight. Han asks if the protagonist is joking with him and says Kang is looking down on him with contempt. The protagonist notices that his reaction speed is high but still wasn't increased by doping. He says he should approach slowly and create an opening to attack. Suddenly, Han leaps at the protagonist with great speed, catching him off guard. The guy lands a clean hit on Kang's head, slamming him face first into the ground. He says he can't afford to slip up or leave openings when fighting a monster like that. Kang tries to kick him from a strange position, but Han notices and puts on a sarcastic smile. He then lands a direct hit, sending the boy flying. Kang clearly felt those two hits, judging by the pained look on his face. Han grabs the boy's leg midair. He says there's no need to read the kid's movements. He'll just use pure brute strength to defeat him. The monster, holding Kang with one hand, slams him into the ground with full force. The protagonist ends up completely bruised after the series of heavy hits. Han laughs at the boy and says he's breaking his spirit. He gets ready to jump and says he wants to see how much a person can be shattered. He jumps with such strength that he even cracks the ground. In midair, the guy says none of his bastard opponents will make him leave. With a psychotic expression, he says that won't happen, because now he is the king. And with that, he comes crashing down with a powerful kick on the protagonist, who had no way to defend himself. Han says the best part of breaking people is definitely the ribs. He keeps his foot pressed on Kang, who lies helpless on the ground. In a flashback of Kim's conversation with the deputy chief, we see the conclusion where the man says Kang's bone structure is 10 times stronger than a normal person's. The boy suddenly returns to the fight by grabbing Han's foot, which startles him. The kid lands a clean kick to the opponent's chin, making him stumble. He quickly tries to retaliate by grabbing Kang's leg, but the student doesn't allow it and escapes in a swift motion. He immediately jumps back, creating distance from Han. Han asks how he's able to do that without even using doping, then assumes it must be the effect of his own doping starting to fade. Kang soon realizes that his opponent's stamina and energy are decreasing as the fight progresses. He comes up with a plan to keep his distance and throw quick punches focused on the opponent's face. Kang moves in cautiously. Han notices and tries to attack, thinking the protagonist is charging in without a strategy. The protagonist dodges a strike by ducking with agility and speed. He quickly lands a fast punch to the guy's face, catching him by surprise. Even so, the opponent tries to hit him in the torso with his other hand, but Kang sees it coming, dodges again with precision, and lands another punch to the guy's face. Han staggers backward, shocked by the strength and speed of the blows. Without time to think, he takes another hit to the face. He can't understand what's happening because he can't grasp the protagonist's speed. The boy soon notices he's got a great opening to land a powerful strike. He prepares to deliver an extremely strong punch with his right hand, but Han stops him and grabs him with both hands in a quick move. He says he's got him, and that this is so much fun. He didn't even realize he let Kang hit him on purpose, but the boy says he also let himself be caught. Han asks what he's talking about. Kang asks if he knows how kangaroos hold their targets before delivering a powerful blow, and in the blink of an eye, he kicks with both feet together into the guy's face. It ends up disfiguring the boy's face. He falls backward, unable to defend himself. He says he can't feel his own body and wonders what's happening. The guy gets pissed at his own body for not being able to react. He can't understand how he's being beaten by some random guy who didn't even use doping. Looking ahead, he sees the doping that was supposed to be used by Kang. He quickly grabs the syringe while Kang watches, already predicting what he's going to do. He starts running and tries to stop Han. The kid jumps, ready to land a powerful kick on the guy. But unfortunately, Han injects the doping syringe directly into his head. The system announces that the stamina doping has been successfully applied. Han then jumps and charges at the protagonist with a body slam that he couldn't defend. The boy takes the full impact and gets badly hurt. The opponent holds him in the air and asks if he's ever heard of a skinny punk. Han slams him hard to the ground, breaking the floor into several pieces. Kang is left completely battered from the blow. The drone approaches his body and starts to observe him. Han tells the drone to get out of his way and pushes it aside. He says this isn't over yet and gets very close to the protagonist. The guy starts choking the protagonist and says he needed this after being the receiver. He then says that for punks like the boy, he's going to cut off his breathing completely. Just before passing out, Kang remembers his father. The protagonist headbutts his opponent square in the face, leaving him stunned on the floor. The drone announces that the game is over for the player who lost the fight. Then we see Kim and the vice leader watching the end of the fight and questioning how Han was finished off. Kim says he actually died after injecting a large amount of doping into his body. He explains that the survival rate from mixing two dopings is at most 0.05%. From the moment Kang defeated Han with the power doping, and the guy injected the stamina doping directly into his own head, he was destined to lose that fight. The vice leader admits that Kim is lucky because the opponent basically signed his own defeat. The guy says maybe it's luck, but he doesn't think that's the right word for this situation, because Kang's body is very strange. The vice asks if it's not just because his bones don't break easily, knowing that this place is full of monsters with incredible abilities. Kim says that with the dopings they have, they can enhance muscles, organs, hormones, and other things. But there's something they can't enhance, which are the bones, and that definitely, there's something secretly special about Kang. The vice says it's clear that Kang is one of the ones who passed and will move on to the next round, and asks what the next step will be. Kim says that ever since he passed the doping test, he's been receiving urgent medical treatment, and after that, he'll meet the monsters who also survived and moved on to the next stage. People who might have acquired all kinds of powers in that place. In the fighting ward training room, we see Kang sitting on a machine. He looks a little confused about the situation. Kang is torn up, wondering if Han really died because of him. He says no, he just wanted to knock him out, and that otherwise, he would have been the one finished off by his opponent. But the boy remembers that he's the only one who can save his father and mother. The same drone from before returns in front of him and stops to observe. The device starts speaking, saying that participants who pass the round must head to the hall. A guy who's there says that if he follows the guide, it will clear all his doubts and Kang will be fine. He says all the drones are equipped with lethal weapons and that he shouldn't try anything reckless. Kang starts walking, following the guide through the hallways. He wonders what kind of place this is. He says it must be an underground location that, in any case, has no way out. He gets a little pissed because he wishes he had a chance to call his mom and check how she's doing. The guy remembers that Kim's last promise was that the protagonist's family would stay safe as long as he joined the fighting ward. He says the fights aren't what he imagined, and the people here are way too strong. Monsters. At least all the street thugs here are at that level, but the worst monsters will all be gathered in one place. The guide announces that the main hall door is now open. When the door opens, he enters and sees a bright flash. Several drones are in the air and begin to observe him. One of them says that all players are present in the main hall, and that the game will begin with 124 participants. With that, we see various different people of all sizes and styles in the same place, all capable fighters. The system says the opening summary will be short and that it will play on the monitor ahead. Kang looks at the guys and says they're all monsters. He adds that they're on a whole different level compared to the kid he fought in the first round. The young man says he shouldn't get into pointless fights and just wait for the official matches. A man next to him calls out and asks how he ended up there, then asks if he doesn't want to have a little fight with him. Kang says he should have taken off his school uniform and hopes the summary starts soon. Some guys say they heard Kang won his fight because his opponent overdosed, and a man says then he must not be using any doping at all. They say that judging by his uniform, the rich people watching Fighting Ward must be having fun betting on him, expecting a pathetic show. One guy says maybe they should have a little fun with the kid. One of the men tells him to keep his head down, walk quietly, look to the sides, and not make eye contact. Kang ignores it and keeps walking but is called out by someone else. A tall man says he has a few questions for the boy before everything begins, and the kid gets pissed because he doesn't want trouble. The man says that if Kang doesn't answer, he'll take him down. The boy realizes that to survive among maniacs, he also has to be a crazy guy. Both quickly attack each other, but suddenly, someone interrupts them by sticking his arm out in front. The tall guy asks what that's about. We see that the man who stopped them is wearing glasses and has brown hair, apparently in his 30s. The darker-skinned guy grabs his arm in a threatening tone. With an evil smile, he asks what the guy's going to do now. They both start emanating a powerful aura, and the man with glasses says that Kang is just a student. He quickly pulls his arm out of the guy's grip, surprising him a bit. He asks if the Four Eyes is really going to fight him, just over some random little kid. Kang says he's not going to do anything, but he can't keep putting up with the insults. The guy keeps asking if he really wants to die for a mere student. Kang gets ready to attack and says he couldn't just stand still anymore, but he suddenly gets scared by something. We see that one of the drones has eliminated the dark-skinned guy. The system announces that the summary is about to begin and that anyone who causes damage outside the designated fight schedule will be executed immediately by one of the drones present. Kang is shocked at how easily they kill people without even warning and wonders how they expect him to survive in a place like this. The summary begins, and a being congratulates those who managed to survive. The figure says the doping test round is complete, but it was just a casual event, and as they continue surviving, there will be fewer eliminations. But for now, losing any round results in elimination from Fighting Ward. And by elimination, he says it means being rendered incapable of fighting in any situation. He also says the main reason most of them are there is the prize of 10 billion won that will be awarded. Upon hearing this, everyone starts cheering excitedly about the money. Kang says that with all that money, his family could finally start living like normal, decent people. The man adds that unfortunately, only one person will be able to win the prize, but they shouldn't be disappointed, because if they reach the top 16, they'll receive 5% of the amount bet on them by the VIPs. The guys get excited about the idea of winning that money. Each player will have the right to a camera recording them so they can introduce themselves. The VIPs will watch each player's channel and place their bets based on the people. In short, the more attention the players get from the VIPs, the more money they'll earn. For now, they should try to keep the VIPs on their side and make sure they'll have a good amount of money at the end of it all. Now, rooms have been arranged for the participants to stay in after their fights, and for now, they're free to choose whichever rooms they want. Some questions will be asked by the people who are watching the fighters. Some guys say that to attract the attention of the VIPs, they need to show strength and that they should enter the same room as Kang. The young man says finding a decent room will be difficult, but the same guy with glasses who saved him tells him not to worry, because he won't let anything happen to the boy before the official matches begin. Kang feels a bit suspicious but still accepts the man's partnership. Then he sees someone walk by and watches them, thinking they look strangely familiar. The guy says they should keep looking for a room to stay in. Kang suspects the man's behavior because he was insulted because of the kid and now wants to look for a room together with him. He says he doesn't know his motivation but doesn't want to trust him 100% because everyone there is dangerous. The guy asks what he's still doing just standing there. The same two guys from before say that room already has a group formed and that they want to go to the same place as Kang. They say it's better to go to a nearby room since the guy seems like one of the main members the VIPs will be interested in. but maybe being in the same room is dangerous, so being nearby would be good because they might show up on a popular channel among the rich. That's because guys with big muscular bodies attract the rich gamblers. In another room, we see 3 tall and very muscular men together. Suddenly, a simple-looking guy with blonde hair and a jacket walks into the room. He closes the door and stays inside. He says it looks like a good room, and the guys are surprised by that statement. The men there stand up in a threatening tone, and the guy simply asks if they can get out of his way. One of them says the camera isn't even there, and still he had the guts to shut the door. Attacking the blonde guy, he says he's asking to be killed. The man just uses 2 fingers to counterattack. He dodges and lands a clean hit on the dark-skinned man's jaw, who is defeated easily by it. The other 2 guys in the room are shocked by what they just saw. The blonde guy asks if anyone else wants to greet him. Both men hesitate and look scared. The guy says it's better they stay quiet just as they are. He says the person he wants to greet is someone else, and it's revealed to us that his name is Han Minsu, and he's 19 years old. Outside the fighting ward, we see a car on a bridge. Inside the vehicle, we see Kim delivering the news that the vice president has once again teamed up with Choi Mik-shun, the former tournament champion, and the vice chief doesn't like it. He questions the path to take now because his only salvation is a kid who's still in high school. Kim says that if Kang makes it into the top 16, they'll be eligible for the second round of fights with doping, because with his body he has a high chance of reaching an elite enhancement level since his bones are 10 times stronger than normal, and with just one more doping shot, he could become a record-breaking monster. The vice chief says it'll be a bit difficult to keep him on their side because other VIPs and even fighters will try to sabotage him. Kim says they shouldn't worry about that right now, because the members of the room Kang entered are the 5 with the lowest VIP views after the doping round. The vice chief ends up being surprised by that. Back to Kang, the same man from before says it's not that easy to get views, because the audience tends to gather around fighters who have already won before, and that's not exactly helpful. We see the only female fighter in the fighting ward, Amanda Groch, who is 23 years old and fights using capoeira and jiu-jitsu, but her chances of winning are low. We also see the smallest fighter in the competition, Kim Minho, who is 25 and a boxer. And the last one with them is a very strange guy named Minon, who is 28. Minon is lying on the ground saying someone should help him while he tries to lick his own elbow. Suddenly, 5 drones enter the room. The 4-eyed guy says the drones have started recording. They need to attract the VIP's attention in that room to make money. He starts flexing his muscular arm. Then he jumps and begins doing push-ups using only his fingers, with his body elevated. He keeps going while counting 1, 2. Kang isn't really sure what to do in that situation. He quickly looks over at Amanda. She gets ready and points a finger at the floor. She presses her finger into the ground with a lot of force, and Kang is impressed. Then she starts to get into a rather strange position. Soon she's in the same position as the 4-eyed guy, but with only 1 finger on the ground. The boy is surprised because she can lift her own body weight with 1 finger and no preparation. Both of them stay there doing push-ups in an impressive display. Minho then says that just showing off strength is for idiots, and then gets ready. He quickly jumps with an absurd burst of speed. Kang wonders how someone could be that fast. Minon keeps trying to lick his own elbow while saying confusing things. Kang watches the weirdness of everyone around him. He wonders what the hell that is because it's totally crazy, and who the hell would waste time watching that. Suddenly, the system announces that the 124 fighters have had their matches decided. Everyone in the room looks at the big screen, checking out their opponents. Kang's opponent is a man named Kai, who has red hair and an X-shaped scar on his face. In another location, specifically in a building, we see Kim and the deputy chief, who asks if this Kai is a good fighter. The man responds that he hasn't lost a single match since his days as a practitioner of a martial art called Lethwei. Confused, the deputy chief asks if he really said Lethwei, not knowing what it is. Kim says it's a martial art similar to Muay Thai in many aspects, but different because it's more brutal and causes more damage. The deputy chief asks if Muay Thai isn't already one of the most powerful fighting sports, where most attacks land and do major damage. Kim responds that this martial art is even worse. Not only do they fight without gloves, but even headbutts are allowed. They always aim for the face or head, which is ironic, since one of the strongest bones in the body is the skull, but even so, any damage there can be fatal, which is why it was banned from official tournaments. But the most dangerous aspect of Lethwei lies elsewhere. Strikes to the back of the neck and even to the spine are allowed, and these hits can kill or leave someone in a vegetative state. Kai demonstrated his real combat experience in fighting ward, and after his professional career, he was exploited by an organization and continues fighting there. The deputy chief asks about this organization, and Kim answers that official ring fights weren't satisfying him anymore. So he started looking for famous street fighters and caught the attention of an organization. The deputy asks if Kang Seonwoo really has a chance to beat him. Kim replies that that's what he's curious to find out, and the deputy is startled by his statement. However, Kang, along with the Black Bear, are the only fighters who've never trained in any martial art. After that, we return to fighting Ward in Isekai, who is 28 years old. In the room with 5 fighters where the protagonist is, we see them waking up from capsule-shaped beds. The boy asks how long he was asleep there and notices that his body feels much lighter than usual. He wonders what's going on and finds the situation strange. But he remembers that this isn't random and that he's felt this before. He had already felt like this after the fight he had against the Black Bear at the hospital. He confirms it and says he feels much stronger. The guy with glasses from before says he doesn't need to be surprised. He says his muscles were at their limit and recovered without permanent damage, which is why he feels stronger. He says that Kang probably never had to push himself to his limit like that before. The boy realizes that he really had never fought at his limit until that battle with the Black Bear. Still talking, the four-eyed man says he probably recovered his usual speed and that maybe he used a recovery-type doping. Kang says he was curious about something from the other day, and the guy listens. He asks why the man risked getting hurt to defend him. The man says he did it because Kang reminds him of his son. He says he tries to be a good father, but his son doesn't like him much and has a debt to be paid with the loan sharks. Kang says he's here too, and the man finishes by saying yes, he's there to set things right. But when he saw the boy alone there, he couldn't help but remember his son's situation and couldn't just stand there watching everything happen without doing anything. Kang tells him to stop wasting time with him. The boy tells him to survive and to take care of and spend time with his own son, because if he dies, none of this will have any meaning. The man realizes what he just did and is surprised for a moment. He puts Kang in a playful chokehold and tells him to help him one more time, but the young man says that's not what he meant. Suddenly, they hear someone say that something is ridiculous, and when they look, they see Menon indignantly questioning why he's not in the main arena. He says he's the guy who can touch his own elbow with his tongue, in a tone of pride. Back to the two of them, the man says he thinks the matches with the most views will be broadcast in the main arena, and the rest won't. But there's something strange about that, because for everyone there, except Menon, among those not in the main arena, the opponents of the 4 who are outside, except for the redhead, are some of the most viewed ones because they are well-known monsters. Kang asks if that shouldn't be a good thing. Worried, the man asks what he means by saying it should be something good. The boy says this is the best chance to attract the VIP's attention. The man gets extremely nervous and surprised by what the kid just said. Out of nowhere, Menon starts talking very close to Kang, saying that the main arena isn't just for getting views. Stepping back, the boy is surprised by Menon, who suddenly appeared right in front of him, because it's where the top 16 show up and reveal the real powers that can shake the world. And that means exploring their abilities, and he'd also like to be there. Kang says he wishes he could talk to his mom right now. In another place, we see 3 cars parked in what looks like a warehouse. Inside, we again see the Vice Chief and Kim in a strange environment with a barrel on fire. The Vice Chief says he'd rather be watching the fight in the main arena and questions why they're in a place like that. Kim says the location of the fighting ward is secret and only known to organizations, so most likely they want to meet in a hidden spot. The guy says someone other than them has started watching Kang Seon-woo's channel. The Vice asks why that suddenly happened. Maybe they're trying to spy on him. Someone behind them says it looks like there's some kind of understanding going on there. We see a woman standing. Her name is Cha Sunjian, and she's 19 years old, the youngest daughter of the Hosen group. The girl says she's just interested in a young student named Kang Seon-woo, and that's all. The Vice says it hasn't been long since she was fired from the company, but now they're following him around like rats. Kim says he can see that the young lady got interested in the boss. The Vice Chief, completely irritated, asks who he's calling little sister, and adds that she's just an illegitimate daughter. While walking down the stairs, the girl comments that was harsh, because she even dropped out of school to help her 2 brothers in the company. But she thanks him for finding such an interesting place like this, so she says she's probably grateful. The Vice says either way, it's better if she stays quiet and gets out of there. A car suddenly arrives at the location, and a guiding drone, like the ones from the fighting ward, shows up, surprising everyone. 2 men in strange clothes and the drones say they're going to take them to the main arena of the championship. Sometime later, someone tells Cha she can remove her blindfold. When she does, she finds herself in an elegant place with red and very comfortable armchairs. The girl asks what kind of place this is. We see that this is the main fighting arena of the fighting ward, a large and beautiful place. A security guard says that as she can see, this is the arena, and she's in the room where the 16 VVIPs stay. After that, she says she's finally here as she looks around. In the playground of the big shots, the place where they have fun. Kim and the Vice Chief are also in places like hers, and the Vice says the place is just as big as he imagined. The guy with glasses says that once the current fight ends, the match of Kang Seon-woo from room 10 will begin. Suddenly, a loud bang is heard, and the 2 are startled by the situation. In the arena, The same blonde guy from before is squeezing a man's neck against the wall. The vice chief asks what kind of monster that man is. Kim says his name is Han Ninsu, and he's the same age as student Kang. The guy asks if he's also another student, just like the protagonist. The man says that although he's not technically a student because he dropped out of school, Kim says that school is strange for having two monsters in it, and another guy doesn't quite understand. He says that a guy named Han Ninsu used to attend the same school that the protagonist Kang Seonwoo goes to. Back to Han in the arena, he easily defeats his opponent. The guide announces that the battle between Room 9 and Room 29 has ended, and the fighter Han Ninsu has won, and now the battle between Rooms 10 and 3 will begin. He tells the fighters to enter the arena. The protagonist and his roommates enter the area together. Startled, the man from before says that the arena's scale is completely different from the previous one. The system announces that fighter Kim Min-hoo must prepare to enter the arena. He gets ready and waits for his fight with a bit of disdain. The guide says that competitors who have finished their matches should leave the area. Han calmly walks toward the door behind Ninho. Kang and the other guy are talking, saying that Minho doesn't really seem confident. Suddenly, a rock hits the wall next to Kang, surprising him. He asks where the hell that rock came from. Minho glances sideways at them while maintaining his lazy expression. He says he definitely saw what just happened. He explains that Han was moving casually, and while tilting his head, he threw a rock in Kang Seonwoo's direction. Min says the guy is insane and his speed is off the charts, something that can't even be reported. As he passes by Min, Han calls him out. He asks if the student on his team doesn't seem a bit arrogant, referring to the protagonist. The young man says he doesn't know what he's talking about. Han asks what the hell the kid is talking about, and the boy doesn't really understand the situation. Staring at him, the blonde man says there's nothing else to be done. Quickly, the young man takes a fighting stance and steps away from him. Kang and his team in the stands are confused by what's going on because it was so sudden. Amanda says it wasn't sudden at all, and the man is surprised by her claim. She says the guy can sense even the slightest intent in people, especially those who intend to kill. Han and Min are still frozen in the same position, but suddenly the guy in the jacket simply keeps walking to the door. Min says the guy made him think he intended to kill him, making him imagine things, and that this guy definitely doesn't mess around. After that, we see the mental vision Min was having when Han was near him, all in his head. The young man wonders if he's really that weak and how he could get his revenge like this. A man behind him asks where he's looking, and the boy refocuses. We're introduced to a guy named Pays, 31 years old, and a wrestler. We see the president of a hotel, a VIP, who says he sponsored Pays because of his wrestling style and asks about it. A man next to him says it doesn't matter how he hits. Wrestlers will drag you to the ground, and that's it. Because once someone's been dominated, there's no escape. They use throws, joint locks, and other techniques. That's why MMA fighters master wrestling on the ground. In short, wrestling is a hybrid with the strongest base of all martial arts. Because if they survive the punches, wrestlers can use multiple moves from different styles. But in this case, where there's a huge physical difference, the fight won't be complicated. The guide says the fighters are ready and that the fight between Kim Min-jo and Pays can begin now. Min takes a fighting stance as he waits for Pays' moves. Pays asks if he's a boxer, and judging by his hand, he's never fought without gloves before, and that it's pretty sad the kid's first opponent had to be him. Then he charges forward, but Min counters with a strong punch to the face. The guy is scared and screams in pain with one of his eyes badly injured from the blow. He keeps screaming in fear, probably now blind in his left eye. Min mocks him, asking who he was calling weak. Pays thinks about what to do and tells himself he needs to grab Min quickly since he only has one eye left and now his vision is terrible. He's extremely worried that he can't see. Pays says Min's speed is extremely high, especially on the side where he can't see. The young man lands another powerful punch to Pays' face with his left hand. Right after, he follows up with a right. His strikes are extremely strong. Pays tries to react by grabbing him and calling him a bastard. The young man quickly dodges the grab with unbelievable speed. After dodging, he delivers several strikes all over his opponent's body. Pays realizes that he's also losing vision in his other eye. He can only see a blur of Min punching him hard. In the stands, a guy wonders if the boy is going to finish it right then and there. Amanda says no, and the other two are surprised. She says Pays is starting to block the attacks, and that's true. He seems to be getting used to the young man's movements. Min suddenly senses something and becomes alarmed. In a split second, Pays almost manages to grab him, but the young man quickly dodges backward and escapes his reach. He questions why he had that reflex, given that he's the one attacking. On the other side, the man is trying to figure out what's happening. He notices that his remaining eye is beginning to clear up. Pei says he feels as if every hair on his body is standing from head to toe. He focuses and says that's exactly it. He says everything is fine and that in this moment he's going to shut off and closes his eyes. Min questions what he's doing by closing his eyes and doesn't know what kind of trick he's planning. But while throwing a powerful punch, the boy says the fight is already decided. Suddenly, even though he can't see, Pais manages to block the boy's attack. Everyone watching is shocked by what just happened. Min realizes that if Pais catches him, he'll be killed and must get out of there fast. Unfortunately, while dodging, he collides with Pei's hand, who grabs him. He lifts him and throws him backward in a strange but very effective move. The man slams him hard to the ground, even cracking and breaking the floor. From the stands, someone says the man used a move called hip throw. The VIP funding Pais asks what just happened. Did he get stronger from being beaten? His subordinate explains that he seems to be losing his sight and gaining a sensory awakening. On the ground, Min looks badly hurt after the throw. Pais says he should thank Min for making him lose an eye, because it allowed him to awaken his true power. Suddenly, he gets hit by a very strong right hook to the face. The boy landed it clean, he wasn't defeated, and the blow struck the man's other eye. He falls backward, screaming in pain and unable to see. The VIP states that even with sensory vision, he can't see without at least one eye. Pais is on the ground screaming in pain. Watching, the man says that Min is very good and held up well even after being attacked. He doesn't know what's happening but thinks it's going well. The subordinate says this can't be reversed because the young man isn't fully conscious right now. Surprised, the VIP asks if the boy really landed that punch while unconscious. We see the boy on the ground with his fist raised, not moving. Amanda says it's best if he regains consciousness soon. Before Pais can find Min on the ground, even blind. We see the blinded man still standing, feeling the effects of not being able to see. He gets angry and says now he really can't see anything, but he apparently has a kind of sensory vision and can perceive where things are around him. He asks what this is. Now Pais can feel the ground, even the grains of sand. He can hear his opponent's heartbeat, things that seemed impossible. He can even feel the difference in air pressure on his body. On top of that, he has the sensation of seeing even with his back. The guy is euphoric about it. He treats it like a kind of natural doping and feels great. He laughs like a madman and says he was disappointed not to get a power doping, but now that he's gained this natural doping, he'll be constantly improving. Pais says he's grateful to the little bastard for doing this to him, and that now he'll let him rest for eternity. He quickly jumps forward in an attack. Min is unconscious on the ground. In his mind, he says his body won't obey his will. He remembers someone lying dead on the ground, and says he will definitely find the man who did this. The boy remembers a man saying that if he wants to find the one who finished off his brother, he should call him, and handed him a card from the fighting ward. In his subconscious, he calls out for help from his brother. Back in the real world, Pais is above him, almost landing an elbow strike. He falls with extreme speed and full force. Min regains consciousness and wonders why everything is moving so slowly, but he quickly realizes it's not the world that's slow, it's that his speed is incredibly amazing. Right after the impact hits the ground, Min had already dodged the attack with incredible speed. Everyone is surprised and starts wondering what just happened. Pais asks how the hell he managed to escape. The young man thanks him for awakening sensations he hadn't felt in a long time, and now that he's rested, he's back at the top. Frustrated, the man realizes the kid isn't messing around. He's even faster than before. Returning to his fighting stance, Min says he wants to see how far Pais can keep up with him. And with both ready, the boy says that stage 1 is about to begin. Pais gets ready and says the kid is coming. In a quick movement, Min dashes right up to the man and attacks, but Pais manages to block the hit. That surprises the boy because that shouldn't have been possible. He throws another punch, which is incredibly blocked again. The boy says he'll now move to the next level and continues attacking, but the man beautifully dodges the attack. He tries to grab the boy, who notices it. Min quickly dodges, stepping back. The kid wonders how the man can keep up with him in a fight. Pais is ecstatic and says he can feel everything from tiny movements to heartbeats. And now to him, there are no blind spots. Min says that just regular speed won't cut it and that he has to take a risk. He presses down with his legs and says he needs to reach his maximum speed to make any impact. He launches forward with incredible force toward his opponent. As he attacks, the boy says he'll use his best technique called light straight. Suddenly, he feels a chill and something strange. He's hit square in the face by Pais, who grabs his other arm. The boy crashes to the ground, badly hurt. Slightly surprised, Pais questions something. Why did he fall from just that one blow to the middle of his face? But Min gets up with all his strength. He wonders how he's okay after being hit in the throat and thinks maybe he's unconscious again. Pais says that if he had continued attacking, he would have lost, but by falling, Min saved his own life. From the stands, the guy says Min's speed isn't enough to win, and he seems to be feeling the hits more. But the man gets a bit scared when he sees something in the arena. Min was moving so fast it looked like he was in 3 places at once. The man says he's not using any doping, just his footwork, and wonders if he's doing that so he can use the speed drug later. Min keeps projecting his image with his extreme speed. The guy wonders what he's trying to do in a situation like that. The young man attacks with a right punch. Back to the guy, he says not to do it or he'll die. But to everyone's surprise, he lands the punch directly on his opponent's face. Paez tries to grab him in a counterattack but fails as the boy dodges. The man is extremely surprised by what he's seeing. Min is circling his enemy with his insane speed. Paez can't do anything because he has no way to hit the boy, but unfortunately, Min is getting more and more exhausted. The man says he shouldn't be doing that because he doesn't have the stamina to keep up, and if he burns out, he won't be able to attack. Suddenly, a punch lands cleanly on the man's face. Back in the stands, the guy is terrified and wonders if he's going to do it again. But Min keeps up his insane speed and continues delivering several powerful, fast punches to his opponent. Incredibly, the boy keeps up the momentum. The man says the attacks are actually working and wonders why he keeps using feints. Amanda says it's because all those feints are part of the boy's attacks. The young man continues delivering incredible, strong punches. She says his opponent lost his vision, so he'll unconsciously ignore feints and direct blows wouldn't work. So now he intends to pretend to do something to trick his opponent, the man suggests. Amanda says no, it's beyond that, because Kim Min-ho can deceive multiple senses. She explains that with sensory doping it's easy to perceive movements, but even so, it still requires training. By feinting at Min's level, a person's mind falls into complete chaos. The boy is slowly creating a mental breakdown. The girl says she didn't expect him to realize so quickly how well his opponent could read him. Beyond that, she adds that young Kim Min-ho scares her quite a bit. The boy keeps moving fluidly and throwing punches aimed at his opponent's face. From the VIP room, a man asks if Paez is really going to lose to a guy like that kid. His subordinate tells him to calm down, then tells him to look at the expression on the man's face, and questions if that looks like the face of someone who's losing. We see Paez's face in ecstasy, as if he's enjoying getting beaten, but in a swift motion he grabs the boy, and says the victory goes to his senses, with a wicked smile. The man lands a deadly blow on the kid. Min realizes the situation he's in, and there's nothing he can do. Paez finishes the move by slamming Min's skull into the ground with full force. Everyone is shocked by what they just witnessed. Even the VIP members themselves are surprised. But suddenly, what should have been Min's body begins to dissolve into the air. Paez insists that he's sure he grabbed and hit the boy, but we soon see the boy standing right in front of him. Kang wonders how he ended up behind the man if he was just struck. Amanda says that the blows Min landed on the guy hit his brain. The boy is surprised by the girl's statement. She explains that Min specifically targeted the face, especially the skull. She goes on to say that when the head is struck, the brain rattles and takes time to stabilize after impact. And in that moment, the confusion between sensation and perception is even greater. Kim Min-ho created a few seconds of sensory delay in Paez, making him think he touched him when that never happened. Kang is impressed with the boy and questions whether the guy is actually stronger than him. The boy continues to observe the man stuck in the position of the last attack. Paez questions if the kid, even without any doping, has sharper senses than he does, and says that's just completely unfair. Paez lies on the ground, seemingly defeated, while Min remains standing. The guide approaches to assess the situation, and finally announces that, due to incapacitation of one fighter, the winner of the match is Kim Min-ho. From the stands, the man celebrates the boy's victory. The VIP is furious because Paez lost his fight. Still in the arena, Min looks extremely exhausted after his triumph. On his knees, he calls out to his brother, dedicating his victory to him. In another VIP room, we see the girl accompanied by her bodyguard, saying that fight wasn't for humans, and now she understands why the old men enjoyed it. Her guard says that was just an ordinary fight. The man says that place is where members of the elite display their desires, a place where money and power uphold authority, and deaths come with no consequences, where anything can happen, even hallucinogens passing through without inspection. It's definitely a paradise for the elites who seek what they can't find anywhere else. The man adds that this is how the VIPs invest in the place, and now he sees that the second in command trying to take the first place is truly concerning. He says this is how the second director can properly select his fighters, because he knows the place has high potential. The girl asks if that's why he's moving so aggressively, saying it's quite impressive. Back to the protagonist, he says this will all end in the next round. In a different location, we see a man watching Min's match on a computer. Behind him, a man who calls him director says that all 16 VIPs have now entered the venue. A man with a bandaged body says attendance this year was 100% and asks if there have been any result. The four-eyed man says the second stage of sensory doping was detected first, then its effects dropped by 20%. He says the expected regeneration effect was not achieved by any of the dopings, and the bandaged man asks if they failed. The man with glasses says no, and adds that the peak effects of the doping are just beginning to be seen, and soon there will be more results. Even so, the man says that furthermore, for the first time a doping had no effect, and tests show that clues about regeneration might be found in that. The bandaged man asks if he's talking about skin reinforcement and whether they can start using it. The man answers firmly that soon they will, because the one who's stepping into the arena for the next fight is Kai, a strong man with insane red hair, standing in a badass pose, cutting back to Kang and his companion before the fight begins. They're chatting, and the old man says that if it looks too tough, Kang should just give up. The protagonist says that won't happen, and it shouldn't either. The man asks how the young guy can be so calm without showing even a hint of nervousness. Kang simply says he doesn't feel anything like that, which leaves the man impressed. A guide drone approaches them. It quickly calls Kang Sunwoo and announces that he's up next to fight. He walks calmly toward the designated door. In his thoughts, he says that ever since this started, he lost the ability to feel fear. He says that for a long time, he witnessed many accidents happening to him, and in those situations where he thought he'd die, he'd always find a peculiar way to survive, first crying in shock. But over the years, he became numb. Especially in dangerous situations, the kid doesn't show anything. He says bullies tried to scare and mock him, but he never felt fear or anything at all. And even when they'd beat him up, he wouldn't even change his expression. Eventually, the bullies started to fear him instead of chasing him, and now fighting is the only thing he can do to protect his beloved family and keep them safe. Looking at Kai, he says he's not the kind of opponent he's faced before. The two face each other in an epic scene. The vice director, standing beside a man, says it's just getting started and wonders what kind of doping Kai must be using. The four-eyed guy says it's his first time seeing skin reinforcement doping, and the man asks how skin could help in a fight. He says it's more than helpful. Kai's last opponent had their skin and muscles torn apart. Seriously, the man asks if with that kind of reinforcement, his enemy can't even hurt his skin. The guy explains that in this state, Kai's skin can't be damaged by human strength because it's thick and calloused from training in battles. On top of that, he's got incredibly strong muscles. The man says the VIPs usually place a good number of bets on Kai. The guy gets pissed because they're already betting on Kai just because he trained in Letway and has the enhancement, while Kang is going in pure. We're shown that everyone has bet on Kai, and not a single cent has been placed on the protagonist. Suddenly, he's shocked. He then says someone placed a bet on Kang before any of them did, no less than 1 billion in cash. The vice director is stunned and immediately asks who did it. Cutting away, we see it was the same VIP girl from earlier. Her bodyguard asks if she's sure about the bet. She says that with high risk comes high return, and she's following her intuition that the only way to break into the Puros is by taking big risks. She says she wants to see whether this will be a wasted high risk or a massive return. Kang and Kai are standing face to face in the center of the arena. The drone observing them moves. It then announces that the battle between Kang Sunwoo and Kai has begun. The boy quickly takes a combat stance and says he'll win no matter what, but he notices Kai is standing still in the same position. The boy says the man didn't even bother to prepare for the fight. He calls out to Kai, asking if he's going to fight or not. Kai responds that he's a warrior and doesn't hit weaklings. Kang gets a bit pissed at his opponent's answer. Kai walks calmly toward Kang and says he'll strike using only 10% of his power and that Kang shouldn't even think of getting up. He then lands a powerful kick to the boy's stomach, sending him flying with a sheer force. The vice director and Min are startled by Kai's power. Kang groans in pain, kneeling on the ground. The vice director wonders if it's all over with just one strike. From the stands, a man says maybe it's best to end the fight now. The blonde guy says he's not screaming because he's in pain. He says Kang probably felt the hit and that Kai won't attack him again because he only wanted to scare him. The man asks if Kai is really trying to spare Kang's life. Calmly, the boy says no, that he's just embarrassed, and the man is shocked to hear that. If he had to fight seriously against a high schooler like Kang, his reputation would be severely damaged. He only intends to knock the protagonist out to end this quickly. Back at the center, Kai says that instead of pretending to be injured, the protagonist should find a way to advance to the next stage. The man adds that acting like he's in pain won't change anything and says he'll give the boy another chance. Kang interrupts, telling him to continue from where they left off, surprising Kai. The young man asks if there's some kind of reward for talking that much in that tone. Kai stays silent. Then he says that this time it'll be easier and he'll knock the kid out with an even stronger blow. Preparing himself, he says he wants to see if Kang can do anything about it. With absurd strength and speed, he kicks Kang. But Kang counters the blow with another powerful kick, leaving Kai shocked. The girl, the vice president, and Kang's roommates are all stunned by the boy's strength. He quickly makes another very strange move, preparing to unleash a different attack. Kai yells at him to shut up and charges forward, but the protagonist, in a crazy pose, dodges the attack swiftly. The redhead notices how the kid's neck is bent and realizes it should be impossible. Kang raises his hand very quickly, startling Kai. With a crazy strike, he lands a direct hit on the redhead's head from above. Everyone is shocked by the boy's raw power. Kai, pissed off, says he gave him a chance, but now that chance is gone. Kang says there's no problem with giving chances and all that, but no one should kneel before a mediocre student, as Kang's strike was so overwhelming it forced the redhead to his knees, unable to stand. And he didn't even use his fist for that. That's how pathetic Kai is. After getting up, the redhead says if someone can convincingly fake being knocked out, what can he do but scare him in return? He places both hands on Kang's shoulders and says he has no choice but to act now. The desperate young man realizes he can't break free from Kai's grip. Kai prepares to headbutt Kang with monstrous force, saying it's a 50% power blow. The only reaction the boy manages is a simple shit. The man lands the headbutt directly on the boy, brutally smashing his face. He becomes dazed as he falls. The redhead questions why he's feeling so much pain and wonders if he's not controlling his strength properly. In a quick move, Kang reacts and kicks Kai in the face with both feet, jumping and sending him flying backward. Kai asks how the guy hasn't taken damage even after that headbutt. Kang lands back on the ground, regaining full awareness. He says he's regaining his vision after the hit. Like magic, the redhead appears in front of him, preparing to punch with force. The punch hits the boy's chest from below, tearing through his skin and clothes. Back in the stands, a man questions how that happened, and the blonde guy says it's not over yet. Kai quickly charges, slamming his knee into the protagonist. The knee to the stomach was so strong it hurt even me. While in the air spitting blood, Kang can't react. Kai prepares to elbow the back of the boy's neck. The man in the stand says if that blow lands on the neck, the protagonist could die. The strike hits the boy's head with full force, slamming him to the ground after the string of attacks. After the fight, the guy appears defeated while the redhead simply watches him. The four-eyed guy says this is too much for a simple fight. Behind him, the blonde guy says this situation is ridiculous, and the man asks him why. He wonders what is up with this guy, Kang Sun-woo. What kind of person is he? We see Kai commenting that before taking the elbow, the protagonist buried his head into the ground. The redhead wonders if the kid lying there is crazy, or if he was just in panic, and that was the only escape he saw. He couldn't possibly be okay, unless his head was made of iron. Suddenly, the boy begins to get up, scaring the man, who wonders how he's getting up so fast. Kang stands up again, though still looking a bit off. The four-eyed guy, surprised, asks what's going on there. Suddenly, the blonde guy says that if he thinks the protagonist is some weak kid, he's completely mistaken. Even without knowing much, for some reason, Kang gives him chills. The protagonist returns to the fight in a badass stance, staring down his opponent. Kai says that a kid like him shouldn't push himself so hard, and if he wants to survive, he should give up now. Kang interrupts, saying he's still spouting nonsense. He says he wants to see if his endurance is as strong as his mouth for talking like that. Kai says that even if he lands his hits, they'll be useless, and that it's better to give up. The redhead spreads his arms and tells the boy to attack. He won't even defend himself. In his thoughts, the protagonist says Kai must be underestimating him, but why does he seem so angry? Kai remembers that to become the best, he had to put everything on the line. He had to knock out every opponent in the ring. And even then, it never felt like enough. He believed that life or death fights would make him a true warrior. To experience real danger, he even mingled with assassins and gangsters. He would enter rival groups and massacre everyone, surviving as the strongest. Now he says they really expect him to have a serious fight with a student like that. Kang prepares to strike while Kai says he should punch with all his strength. It won't matter anyway. Kang lands an extremely powerful punch on the big guy's abdomen. Everyone is stunned by the strength behind the blow, but in reality, the punch didn't do anything. Kai says he warned him already. With a weird smile, he says he's not some high schooler like the kid. Suddenly, he's startled, and it hits him. Kang simply says he'll throw one more punch. A left hook lands hard, taking his opponent by surprise. The redhead questions what just happened, clearly not expecting that at all. Kang follows up with a powerful left kick to his opponent's head, but Kai, with his insane reflexes, blocks it. He quickly counters with a punch and asks what the kid thinks he's doing. In a desperate move, Kang says he urgently needs to dodge. The punch grazes his chest, but even that tears through his skin and clothes. Kang says he thought he had dodged it, and now needs to get more distance. He jumps back, getting far away from his opponent after taking the hit. Both stare each other down again in a tense atmosphere. Kai asks how many chances he has to give Kang before he gives up. The protagonist gives a slight smirk upon hearing that. The redhead asks if the kid is really laughing at the situation. Kang asks if he forgot what he told him before. He then rips off his shirt, revealing an insane, well-defined muscular body. The crowd in the stands is shocked at the sight of the boy's physique and wonders how he's that strong. Kang asks if he didn't say he wouldn't defend himself, and the man replies that yes, he said that. Kai says Kang isn't just some kid dragged into this as a sacrifice, but tells him to remember, this was his choice. His fist begins to emit a blue aura with crack-like patterns. Kang is ecstatic about the battle to come and cracks a smile. Kai releases a wild blue aura all over his body and finally says he's now in his 100% mode. The four-eyed guy asks what the protagonist is doing smiling in a situation like that. Has he gone insane? The woman says no, but that he's genuinely excited about the fight. The guy doesn't really understand why. Kang should have given up by now after seeing what a monster his opponent is. The girl says that's happening because it's probably the first time he's felt truly challenged by a strong opponent. The man asks who in their right mind would react like this in a life or death situation. The girl says she's been through that too, and we see a brief flashback. She used to fight strong guys who underestimated her just for being a girl, and then she'd see them get serious while fighting her. The girl says she'd feel her heart blazing and fulfilled in those moments. The four-eyed guy slightly misreads the vibe and tells her to calm down. It's not the right time to talk about that. Still seated, the blonde guy says he knows that emotion well too, because when he was young and weak, no one recognized him for anything, and the only time he ever felt truly alive was when he punched an opponent with his real strength, and saw that man's eyes acknowledge a kid like him. The four-eyed guy says the protagonist is, inevitably, a true fighter. Back in the center of the fight, we see Kang taking up his fighting stance once again. Both are staring each other down, and at any moment, an epic fight could begin. With a slight smirk, the protagonist says he'll make the first move. He immediately jumps forward toward Kay to attack. He throws a punch that the redhead blocks with his arm, causing a massive impact. From the stands, the guy says that blow made a huge sound, and with that kind of power, even Kai must be surprised. Kang gets a bit pissed and says his opponent's skin feels like concrete. With his right hand, Kai gets ready to punch and says he wants to see if the boy can defend against it. He lands a solid punch that Kang blocks with his forearm, but the impact still knocks him to the ground. Kang spits blood after taking such a powerful hit. The four-eyed guy says the impact shook the whole place, and that power can't even be compared. Kai finishes his blow, and the protagonist remains on the ground. Then he follows up with a brutal knee strike to the boy. The guy gets terrified, afraid of what might happen. But the redhead only hit the ground with his attack, because Kang dodged just in time with his incredible speed and reflexes. The man is stunned, unable to believe what he's seeing. Calmly, the blonde says no, he didn't dodge completely. His back is torn up too. Kang thinks that this sensation he's feeling is so strange, he realizes he's feeling a bit of fear. But he can't believe it's happening because of someone like Kai. The redhead says it's time the boy admits it, that Kai is the only opponent he can't and will never be able to defeat. Kang tells him not to be ridiculous, because he's not the only one people treat like a monster, and whatever he can do, Kang can do too. He says this and tries to land an uppercut on the redhead. Kai dodges the strike as Kang crouches with his elbow heading for the ground, attempting another move during the drop. When it fails, he starts to worry about what comes next. With a wicked grin and a crazy look in his eyes, Kay says it's his turn to attack. The four-eyed guy quickly realizes the redhead is about to headbutt the kid again. Kang braces his legs and repeats that he can do anything Kai can. They clash head-to-head in a strike that must have hurt like hell. In that clash, Kai comes out on top. Kang ends up on his knees after the headbutt battle. He trembles on his knees, unable to do much. Kai says this fight is over. He says none of Kang's attacks show any real skill. He's just using brute force. On the ground, Kang laughs again, this time even more sadistically. The man is shocked and asks if the boy is really laughing. He says that if Kang won't end this himself, then he'll do it for him. Kai still watches him, but now with a bit of intrigue. Kang is emanating a different aura, something unseen before. The four-eyed guy asks what kind of atmosphere this is, saying even the boy's blood seems to be evaporating. Kang has a determined look on his face. He says he never used to get into fights because people always hated him and treated him like a monster. But now that he's in a place like this, he can finally be as crazy as he is, and he just can't stop this laughter from escaping. As Kai prepares to kick Kang on the ground, the boy says he can't hold back the urge to fight this guy. He quickly senses the incoming strike, and with a strange push-off, he jumps and dodges the kick, then grabs Kai's head and holds it tightly. Surprised, the redhead says he's too fast. There's no time to react. Kang then lands an incredibly powerful headbutt on Kai. The man becomes completely dazed after the hit. Still midair, the protagonist spins and moves behind the man, and kicks him with both feet in the back, slamming him face first into the ground. As Kai tries to get up, he says those movements aren't human, and in the blink of an eye, he already sees the boy's fist inches from his face. Kang lands a brutal punch squarely on the man, sending him crashing into the arena wall. But Kai grabs the protagonist's fist before it hits his face. Kang, however, uses that to his advantage, pulling him in to land another punch to the guy's gut, and immediately follows up with an even stronger blow that hits Kai's body and sends him flying, even cracking the ground around him. The redhead is completely lost after the blow. Kai braces himself on the ground and stops sliding backward after taking the hit. Seriously, he asks what kind of doping Kang took, because that guy seems like he never gets tired. Kang already tries to throw another left punch, but it's blocked by Kai. Kai tries to counterattack the boy, but Kang easily appears behind him with his speed, and immediately lands a flurry of strikes all over Kai's body. Kai doesn't know what to do and says this is just insane. With no time to think, he takes another brutal hit to the face. He's getting completely wrecked by the protagonist. The guy is sent flying and crashes to the ground without reacting. Everyone in the stands is at least shocked by what's happening in the arena. Kai is on the ground, apparently completely defeated. We see his body covered in blood. The four-eyed guy asks if he actually died because of how much blood there is, but the woman says that blood isn't Kai's. It's from Kang Sun-woo's fists. He says it feels like he's intoxicated, as if every muscle in his body is tearing apart. Still, Kai slowly gets up to continue the fight. The VIP girl asks why the guy is getting up again. Her bodyguard replies that the doping he used gives his skin a kind of armor, so Kang's hits aren't landing with full effect. She asks how he's supposed to make Kai fall then. Exhausted, the redhead says he's never felt pain like this before, but judging by the fact that Kang can barely open his eyes, he must be close to his limit. Kai says he'll end this by breaking the kid's legs, but Kang reacts, and Kai is impressed he's still able to move, even with Kai's current speed. The protagonist attacks, but Kai blocks with his forearm. The punch slips along Kai's body, leaving Kang concerned. In a brief opening, Kai says he'll finish this fight now. Both prepare to strike at the same time. Kai wonders if his attack is weakening. He can't feel his fists. He realizes Kang has been taking the hits strategically, preventing his skin from hardening. The redhead questions why he's trembling in that situation. Kai doesn't understand. He feels his strength leaving his fists, and there's no benefit in dragging this out any longer. Then, at the right moment, he sees an opening and says he'll put his years of training to use, and prepares to throw one final decisive low kick. The strike lands squarely on Kang's leg, and he couldn't react in time. The protagonist is dazed after taking the hit and nearly loses consciousness. Kai says this will be the end of Kang's legs, preparing to strike again, but the protagonist surprises him by counterattacking with a kick to his leg. In shock, the four-eyed guy says he blocked the low kick with his shin. Kang's leg tears open from the clash between the two strikes. From the stands, a man says the sound of the attacks was intense, and the protagonist probably broke his leg. Kang takes a peculiar stance in front of his opponent. He immediately notices the awful state of his leg. His muscles are completely torn, and he can't move. Kai is already preparing to deliver another low kick, this time to the boy's body. The redhead yells that this will be the end of everything. Totally desperate, the four-eyed guy shouts no, but as he takes a step, Kai's leg suddenly breaks. He's left speechless, asking what just happened, then collapses to the ground, unable to support himself after the shock. When he puts his hand on the ground, his arm breaks too. He screams in pain, shocked by what's happening, and asks if he's dreaming. Because he had taken a doping that strengthened his bones, so Kang made sure to target them specifically from the beginning. We then see Kai on the ground, completely broken and defeated. Everyone in the stands is stunned by what they're witnessing. The vice director and the other man are horrified, but the little girl looks happy with Kang's victory. Kai is on the ground, unable to move and in no condition to fight, but Kang Sun-woo remains standing in the end after a grueling, hard-fought battle. The vice director asks what just happened there. He explains that Kai could fight without a single scratch thanks to his tough skin and muscles, but that caused massive internal damage. Even though he looked fine on the outside, his bones were like a hammer being struck with bare hands on the inside, and the doping numbed the pain he felt, and even with the strain, the doping kept pushing him beyond his limits. And now Kai's arms and legs are full of fractures. A guide drone approaches the redhead and finally announces that, with Kai incapacitated, player Kang Sun-woo has won the round. Upon hearing this, the protagonist shouts with excitement. The man goes completely crazy after seeing the result and questions if Kang is a zombie or something. The blonde guy, always suspicious, says Kang is definitely hiding something. Kang lies down on the ground, completely exhausted. He asks his mom to just wait a little longer. The same bandaged man from before asks the scientist if he's sure Kang didn't use any doping. Calmly, the man says that after tests following the first round, his body came out clean in the doping check. The bandaged man says he wants to know more about the boy's past, but to do that, they need to start by looking into his relatives. At the hospital, we see Kang's mother leaning over his father's hospital bed. Someone suddenly opens the door. She says it's not a good time for visits, but then she sees it's two men in suits and asks who they are. Back at the arena, we see two medics carrying the protagonist on a stretcher. He's completely worn out after the intense battle. The vice director asks if, with all those injuries, he'll even stand a chance in the next round. The man says a physical exam is coming up soon, and during that exam, he wants to try something, to test a secret doping plan on Kang's body. The vice questions him, and the man says if the boy succeeds in the second round with doping, Kang Seung-woo will be the strongest candidate for victory. The man asks if it's possible to conduct the test, since by the rules, if the player refuses the doping, there's nothing they can do. Holding a syringe in hand, he says this is just a simple test to see if the boy's body is capable of handling the doping, and if he passes, everything will go well. The vice asks, and what if he fails the test? Sternly, the man says that if he fails, he's useless anyway, so they'll have to prepare another alternative. In Kang Seung-woo's recovery room, we see a capsule with medical equipment beside it. Someone approaches with a syringe in hand. A man in a special suit opens the capsule where Kang is sleeping. Back in the VIP room, the vice says the boy just needs to win one more match to enter the round of 16. He asks if there's another match under special conditions. Will one of the top 16 be selected based on betting volume? And the other man confirms it. The guy asks if he really thinks such a large amount of money will be bet on Kang, who's injured. The man asks if he didn't see for himself that the boy won 2 matches with no doping, and that no one before has ever won a match without using doping. The fact is, he reached the top 62 without doping, and on his own he'll attract a lot of attention from VIPs, and if he wins again, a lot of money will be placed on him. The man states that in the end, if he can't use doping, there's no way to win the championship, and it's time to ensure his safety. The guy says that Kang is fulfilled right now and will do whatever it takes, even dope himself, to save his parents. Seriously, the man says if the boy is physically incapable of using the doping, they'll discard him in the next match. Calmly, the man comments that in case of failure, they've already arranged immediate security and medical support for his parents. A little more reassured, the man says that even if not, Kang Seung-woo will hear news about his parents anyway. Kim says that soon a man will arrive with the protagonist's doping test results, and the other guy asks how a simple secretary from the fighting ward has all that power. Sternly, the man says he doesn't have that much authority and is risking his life by doing this. The vice asks why he's risking himself like this, and says it's definitely not for him. Kim replies that the director would love nothing more than to remove the elder and become the true owner of Hoshin. He says he's doing this for himself. He wants to find the strongest humans in the fighting ward battles and doesn't care if he dies for it. With a wicked expression, he says he also doesn't care if others die too. The vice director smiles and says he likes that lunatic expression. Suddenly, someone opens the room door. It's the same man who was in Kang's room. Kim quickly asks about the doping test results. The man with suspense says that unexpectedly, there wasn't even a single reaction. The man then asks if the boy is physically incapable of using doping, and the other confirms that yes. The vice director gets pissed and says they must erase all evidence of Kang and immediately cut all support to his family. But he quickly corrects himself and says it would be faster to eliminate his parents right away. In the boy's room, we see that he's still unconscious from the physical toll of the fight. Back in the main hall of the fighting ward, we see the blonde saying that ever since they were called to the lobby, it seems all 62 winners have been decided. The four-eyed guy from before, now with a massive arm, says that by the way, it seems Kang hasn't fully recovered yet, since he hasn't returned. The girl from earlier says that might actually be a good thing, since the next round won't start until everyone's recovered. In a strange stretching pose, she says this might be a great opportunity to rest a bit. The blonde seeing this is shocked by her flexibility. She adds that the protagonist seemed exhausted from the very beginning of the fighting ward. The blonde says that honestly, for people like Kang and himself, fighting there means dealing with the consequences of their injuries. But the girl and the four-eyed guy made it to the top 62 without a single scratch, especially Park Woo-shin's arm, the four-eyed guy whose name is finally revealed. We see a flashback of his short fight where no one expected a monstrous right arm like that. Park says that even he didn't know his arm would transform like that. He says Amanda didn't even use her arms, thinking her opponent was too weak, and ended up defeating her easily. And that honestly, it was too fast to even be real. Min says that even now, he doesn't know how she managed to take her opponent down. He asks if Amanda can explain how she did it. The girl asks if he really wants her to say that out loud, since they could end up facing each other by the end of the tournament. Upon hearing that, it suddenly hits Min, and he realizes the situation. Suddenly, Menon shows up. asking why they're leaving him out of the conversation. Because he also won his match and was the best, and honestly, everyone thinks he's crazy. On a screen, the boss begins to make an announcement and congratulates the players who reached the top 62. And that now they only need to win one more fight to advance to the top 16 stage. Because if they win this round and reach the top 31, the top 16 will be decided based on who received the most bets. And if they survive the top 16, they'll receive 5% of the total amount of VIP bets placed on them. Hearing that, everyone goes wild and totally euphoric. To earn more bets, the players have to prove their strength in battle. And regarding injuries, he explains that place is also an excellent hospital. And now they will announce the upcoming matchups. At the Hoshin Group building, the vice director asks if they can secure other candidates besides Kang, and the man says yes. Kim says that as expected, this fighter seems to be the perfect choice, and the vice asks who it is, and the man shows the protagonist's next opponent. In Kang's recovery room, he finally wakes up from the capsule, screaming for his mother. We see that his scars are healed. Kang says it wasn't a dream. He definitely heard something. He remembers the man reading a report that said if he didn't have any result with the doping, they should eliminate his parents. Desperate, he says he has to get out of there immediately. In the Fighting War Director's office, he asks if the guy there was the one who conducted the doping test on Kang Sun-woo. Reluctantly, he says yes, but that he found something unusual. The director asks what it was, and he explains that Kang's bone density is 10 times higher than normal. The director is extremely surprised and says that's insane. The guy says that's not all. He explains that his recovery speed is extremely fast, almost like regeneration. Utterly shocked, the director can't even speak. Maybe a simple student holds the key to discovering human regeneration. The director comments that he really is special and asks if they're ensuring his parents' safety. Somewhat hesitant, the scientist apologizes and the director questions him about it. The man explains that by the time they got there, someone had already taken action. Back in Kang's room, he's restless. He quickly gets up and says he has to escape now, or something will happen to his parents. He gets furious and realizes there's no opening to escape. Opening the door, he says he urgently needs to find a ventilation duct. When he opens it, he's surprised by who's standing in front of him. A girl says he looks much better now after all, and she introduces herself as Cha Sunjian, the same VIP from before. In a hurry, he asks her to get out of his way. She tells him he shouldn't go looking for his parents, which makes him question her. Cha explains that actually, she's the one with them. The boy is completely shocked when she says that. Back at the Hoshin Group building, in the office of the second daughter, Che Sunjian, the vice director and Kim are present. The vice asks if someone already handled Kang's parents. What does he mean by that? Kim replies that they completely disappeared. It's likely the Fight Ward group acted first. The vice questions why the Fight Ward would do that, and the guy says they always deal with potential issues before they become real problems. The vice director says he got what he wanted without lifting a finger. He was worried he'd have to deal with it personally. He asks how contact with the next fighter is going. Kim says he shouldn't worry about that because Fight Ward VIPs requested it and gave him permission to change small details of the tournament. The vice director asks about the monstrous fighters, and Kim says the VIPs are eager to watch the fight. But visiting the fighting ward isn't a good idea since it's not safe, unless you're a VIP. Back with Kang and Cha, the protagonist asks what she did to his parents. She covers his mouth and says that if he wants to keep his parents safe, he needs to calm down and lower his voice. The girl explains that running away wouldn't help anything. He asks what the hell she's talking about. She says that, as he knows, her former employer, the second son, Cha Yanwoo, wants to erase any connection with him, so he ordered the elimination of his parents, and those lone sharks that Kang took down. They're hunting him too. She says she didn't even bring her security detail because she wanted to speak quietly, so he should listen carefully. She wants his parents to be safe too. Kang, visibly irritated, asks who she is and what she wants from him. She says she's Che Sunjian, and the only thing she's looking for is the boy himself, Kang Sun-woo. The protagonist asks what she's talking about. The girl says she's one of the 16 VIPs and needs a trustworthy fighter. Upon hearing that, the boy is startled that she's a VIP. Cha says she may be new, but she's one of the owners of the Hoshin Group. She asks Kang if he'd believe her more if she told him she's the younger sister of the vice director. The girl says she was banned from Hoshin because of her idiot brother, but honestly, she was already planning to leave, and since her business is thriving, she truly doesn't care. However, she couldn't let two lunatics destroy her father's company. Kang asks what that has to do with taking his parents. The girl says it was because two idiots and herself were watching closely, especially that reckless second son. When she saw how hard Kang was fighting, she wanted to know more, so she met his parents. Smiling, she says Kang turned out to be much more valuable than she expected. There was no way she could let her idiot brother have the boy. She claims he has incredible genes, and that's all that matters, which leaves the protagonist a bit confused. The boy asks if she really just talked about his genes. Changing the subject, the girl says the search for Kang's parents hasn't stopped. The boy asks that if leaving that place is so dangerous, then what is he supposed to do? Seriously, she says there's only one right path for him to follow to keep his parents safe. He quickly asks what path that is. The girl immediately says that path is simple: victory. She says she's betting on a fighting world champion and planning to make a deal to take down her 2 older brothers. She adds that especially the second son, he'll rot in prison and become useless, so he won't be a threat. As for the loan sharks, she has money. Kang asks what sense there is in making a deal in such a secret place like that. She says that in the fight ward, if someone breaks a fair deal, they're expelled under the rules of that place. Kang asks if she really wants to make a life or death deal with him there. She says she's not the only one who wants him there. Besides, the fighters who stay outside the top 16 are only fighting ward. They are immediately eliminated. He asks how he can be sure his parents are safe, since so far it's all just been words with no proof. The girl says that phones or any devices are not allowed in that place, so basically she can't show him absolutely anything. Suddenly her expression changes and she says that if someone has deep and secret communications with his parents, wouldn't that be enough reason to trust her, especially regarding their past when they reported things about his genes. He immediately asks what exactly they said. Suddenly the door opens. A guide drone starts entering the room. She tells him to remember that she's risking her life to protect his father and that he doesn't need to run away. The guide announces that it's time to leave that room. She says he doesn't need to mention any of this to anyone who questions him, and that he should just win, together with her. The boy feels a bit pressured after hearing that. We return to the room where Kang's group is gathered. There, Park says their prize rankings have gone up quite a bit. Amanda is ranked 19, Park is 22, Kim is 28, Minnan is 45, and incredibly Kang is 62, which surprises the 4-eyed guy. Kim says it's probably because he's injured, so no one would bet on a guy who can't even fight. The door suddenly opens. The guide drone enters along with Kang, announcing that he has returned to room 10. Park quickly gets happy and says he looks much better than expected. He says the boy seems to have rested quite a lot during that time. Then he's surprised to see the anger on the boy's face. Kang asks how Park managed to win without even getting hurt. He says he absolutely has to reach the top 16 for his family. The boy begs him to say anything, that he'll do whatever it takes, and he shouts, begging Park to help him. The 4-eyed guy is quite surprised by the boy. Then he asks if this is really impossible. Suddenly, Amanda says he needs to learn a special move. Kang asks her about it. She explains that without a special move, it's hard to keep up with the monsters in the fight ward. She then asks what the boy's specialty is, and he doesn't know how to answer. Park suggests that he use his shin to kick the opponent's calf, because not many people can do it as smoothly as he does, and in his fight against Kai, he blocked a low kick from a trained fighter using his shin, which means Kang should trust in the bone of his shin. Currently, calf kicks are becoming more and more common, and fighters are managing to take down opponents with them. Park tells Kang to try a calf kick just to see how it feels. The boy kicks the wall and causes a massive bang. This leaves Park pretty surprised, especially by the sound it made. He says that, as expected, the boy is a lunatic. Suddenly, strange sounds fill the air, echoing throughout the entire place. We see that it's Ichikario, Kang's next opponent, training while punching the air. Park explains that if Kang knocks out his opponent with a kick, his chances of winning without a fight go up, and then he'll advance to the next round without injury. Menon suddenly appears behind Kang and says that has nothing to do with it. Surprised, the boy asks what just happened now. The redhead asks if Park knows that Kang has a secret finisher. Park and the protagonist are shocked since even they didn't know that. Touching the boy's forehead, Menon says that the finisher is a headbutt, because he repeatedly blocked and countered a headbutt from an experienced Letwai fighter, and even so, he kept fighting unharmed after the exchange of blows. With a crazed expression, he declares that the boy must admit he has the most resistant skull. Park asks if he knows how much damage a headbutt does to the guy who uses it, and if he tries to headbutt the monsters in the fighting ward, Kang won't fight anymore because he'll die from brain damage. Menon says that's a strange thing to say, and the guy is surprised, because everyone who enters that place is putting their lives at risk at every moment. That leaves the group a little shocked, because if they hesitate to give it their all against the top ranks of the fight ward, they will definitely be completely crushed and have a 100% chance of dying. Park truly realizes the crazy guy is right. Menon asks if he shouldn't be more worried about something else besides Kang at that moment. The redhead says he's talking about Park's next opponent. That's Han Min-soo, the blonde guy from the beginning of Fight Ward, who is extremely strong and was placed at rank 9. In the restricted zone of Fight Ward, we see the director looking somewhat disappointed. He says Han's bodily response to the dopings is concerning, and that bringing him there was definitely the right choice. The director says he's referring to the doctor's son, speaking to the scientist in the room. A bit downcast, the four-eyed man thanks the bandaged director. He bows, grateful for all the director's generosity. He thinks it was the right thing to do, while remembering something, because there was no other way. We see him arriving home and announcing this. He finds his son completely malnourished, without any body muscle, and in fact, his son is none other than Han Nin-soo. The doctor was desperate because he was just a regular physician and had no way to help his son, who couldn't even stand up from the floor, and just when he thought it was all over, he received a strange message from the hospital. The man says he never expected to be sent to the crematory hospital. When he arrived, he said it was such an insane place it couldn't possibly be real. Several men inside tanks filled with water, a tube in their faces so they could breathe. In the place where the director had summoned him, there was a list with various doctors and factories, recognized names, but their reasons for doing this didn't matter. And the moment he saw the results of the doping tests being conducted in that place, he couldn't stop crying even for a second, while saying that maybe his son still had a chance. Then the director arrived and asked what he was doing there. The director invited him to participate in the research involving the doctor's son, and for a moment he lost his mind, shocked by the possibility. But there was no other way but to offer his son as a test subject for the lunatics. He began running home to get Han. Arriving home, he found his son trembling on top of a chair, a rope tied to the ceiling, ready to end his miserable life. But his father stopped him just in time. Both crying in a heartbreaking scene, Han begged his father to put an end to his suffering. There was nothing else he could do in that moment, and in the end, he chose to collaborate with Fight Ward. But he always questions if that was the right decision and if there really was no other way. And after that, his son became an extremely powerful monster. The guide drone says that Han can now enter the arena. The door then opens and he steps in. Park is already positioned in the center. He says the time has finally come, and it's revealed that he is a Krav Maga fighter. Han takes a fighting stance, specifically Callous Arnis. The guide drone announces that the fight between Park and Han can now begin. With absurd speed, the blonde guy charges at the man, who can't react in time. He quickly pierces the man's shoulder with a fast strike. Park becomes concerned about his right arm. All of Park's teammates, including Kang, are completely shocked by the speed of the strike. Min says Park probably wasn't expecting piercing techniques in a match like that. Han realizes he can't pull away, because Park is gripping his fingers using his muscles. Then he gets Han's attention and asks if he thinks he's not standing a little too close. Then the man raises his open hand, and with overwhelming strength slaps the blonde guy across the face. It only grazes him. Han narrowly dodges and the strike hits the ground, breaking it apart. Even so, the impact sends Han flying backward. Then he questions who the hell this old man in front of him is. He says that piercing techniques in a fight like this are unbelievable, so he'll respond accordingly, with his own specialty, which is also piercing strikes with his fingers. The vice director asks who Park is, fighting against a rank 9 so effortlessly. Kim says he's a former bodyguard specialized in Krav Maga. That gets the man's attention, and he asks about the martial art. Kim explains that in the mid-20th century, violent attacks against Jews were frequent, and a soldier developed the art to defend civilians. He created it by mixing techniques from various martial arts around the world, and it's especially known for its specialization in close-quarters combat. The vice questions how self-defense could be offensive, wanting to dismiss the possibility of him being a good candidate. Kim says this is an exception, because the method of self-defense is to kill your opponent by any means. Back in the fight, both continue staring each other down, waiting for the other to make a move. Park attacks first, aiming his strike at the blonde guy's eyes, but Han says he's way too slow, so he easily dodges to the right and immediately counterattacks from Park's left side. Park notices, but doesn't have time to react. The strike hits the left side of his skull and ends up breaking his glasses. By reflex, Park attacks, making Han step back and dodge. Park then charges forward, saying he'll catch him this time. Han thinks about how disproportionate the guy's body is, and no matter how much he struggles or chases him, it'll be useless. Park grabs the ground and says it's time. He actually plants himself, using his arms to propel himself forward with force. At insane speed, he lands a hit on Han, who doesn't have time to react and crashes into the wall. But luckily for the blonde, he dodges at the last second, making the blow graze his face. While Park tries to hit him, Han keeps dodging and tries to run, saying it's useless. He runs to the left, preparing to strike the man, then lands 2 hits on Park's abdomen, who even tries to counter but can't. Han says he moves way too slowly, and that now he's going to aim for his vital points to see how well he can defend. Then Han strikes from all directions with a flurry of blows. Park says he can't keep up with the kid's speed. Han finishes the sequence of precisely scattered hits. Kang, Min, and Amanda look surprised and worried about Park. Min says so this is the strength of a rank 9, and that there's probably no way to beat him. Park is still standing, but totally injured, with 2 massive holes in his chest. Han says he's still keeping his fighting stance and admits Park has endurance, and judging by his fists, the man gave up piercing techniques. Unfortunately, Park lets his guard down for a second. Han immediately gets ready to strike, saying that not even grappling him would work. Charging in, he yells for the man to die and goes in for the final blow. The blonde lands it squarely on Park, who's unable to do anything. Right after the hit, Park puts his fist to his own belly. Min says the man was aiming at his own solar plexus, but Amanda says no, he wasn't aiming at himself, he was aiming at his solar plexus. Back in the fight, we're shown that Han's fingers were actually broken after the hit. Realizing this, Han gets both worried and pissed, saying Park is a crazy old man. But the man quickly surprises him by trying to strike with a powerful punch. Han doesn't have time to dodge. The guy lands the blow squarely in the kid's stomach, sending him flying. That hit was so insane it threw Han into the wall, breaking the wall in the process. On impact, the blonde coughs up blood, severely weakened. Park says Han isn't someone who'll go down that easily, and that he needs to land another hit like that. He says the muscles in his right arm are badly damaged, which is very clear. The man gets ready and says he only needs to land one more, a single hit. He charges with everything he's got, saying this will be his last strike. He begs to land just one more in an intense moment, but suddenly his body spasms from the injuries. Kang calls him sir and begs him to hang on a little longer. He feels like he's going to collapse, his eyes begin to close. Park knows he's lost too much blood and his arm no longer responds. The man apologizes to his son, but then realizes the mess he's saying because he's basically admitting defeat. Drawing strength again, he says it's not over. He has to keep going. But when he opens his eyes again, he sees Han right in front of him, about to strike, which terrifies him completely. Even with broken fingers, it wouldn't matter because Han says he's actually right-handed. His stronger hand is his right. He then lands a powerful blow to the man's chest, who can't defend himself. Kang screams in total desperation. Park barely manages to put his hand in front, but even so, he's still pierced through. Han says he admires his courage, but it's useless. Because the blonde's fingers are very long, Park's heart is hit by the strike. He makes one last effort to fight back, but it's no use. Park falls to his knees on the ground, practically lifeless. Kang is completely shocked and doesn't know what to do. Han quickly looks up to the stands. He screams for Kang with a crazed expression on his face, which leaves the young man surprised, questioning the situation. He tells the protagonist to watch closely, because the old man was dying due to Kang's bad luck. Saying that, he pulls the fingers out of Park's chest. Kang is in shock, completely horrified by what he's seeing. He remembers Park saying that the boy never seemed tired and that he just wanted to rest a little, and asking if they could talk more. Park says that if he had shared moments like this with his own son, maybe things would have turned out better between them. Kang asks if, had he and his father been close, it would have been like the bond he had with Park. Park tells Kang not to worry, because his father would never die leaving behind a son like him, and he finishes by saying that, just like him, he could never die leaving his own son behind. And finally, the battle ends. Park finishes his fight lifeless. The guide drone announces that Han Min-soo has won the match. The bastard steps on the face of the fallen man and starts laughing, saying it was expected all along and that this place is hilarious. Kang becomes absolutely furious when he sees this, his face taken over by rage. He jumps from the stands, and his teammates can't stop him. Han says this is how things should be. Kang arrives in the arena right in front of Han. The guide drones go on high alert. Min questions why the guides aren't shooting at the boy. He says, so they only shoot if someone actually gets involved in a fight. Kang and Han stare each other down, the air thick with tension. The protagonist tells him to get his damn foot off the man. Han taunts him, saying if he wants, then come and take his foot off. Kang gets into a fighting stance. The guide drone is ready to shoot at any movement from the boy. Kang suddenly jumps and throws a punch, ordering him to move his foot. Han responds by attacking too. Min quickly runs in, saying he has to stop the fight in time, but he's soon shocked by what he sees. Menon grabs and restrains the protagonist so he can't attack. Kang, in pure fury, yells at him to let go. Menon says that if he wants to feel his headbutt, he'd better do it before he dies. Kang pleads for him to just let him go and fight, but quickly, the blonde throws him down and locks his legs. Menon puts him in a chokehold and says he better sleep for now. The boy starts to fade out slowly, with the image of Han standing in front of him. He remembers Park asking that if something were to happen to him, could Kang take care of his son, because he hopes there's someone who can stop his son from straying off the right path. Kang says that's an obvious thing to do, and it leaves Park a bit puzzled. The boy says there's still so much he wants to learn from him, and he'd at least have to become friends with his son. He asks if he could keep learning from Park anyway. Park is surprised by Kang's kind personality. Jokingly, he says the brat is already planning to use him even after he's gone. Back in the arena, Han keeps his foot on the man's face. Kang is unconscious on the floor, with Min and Menon at his side. The bastard says it's a beautiful sight to admire, mocking the protagonist. Amanda questions him, saying he already got Kang's full attention, so it'd be better if he left now. She asks if he's that desperate for more attention and affection or something. Han threatens her, asking if she wants to die too. Pointing at the drone, she says he could die by messing with it or by the guide's hand. With a sadistic glare, she says he could also be beaten to death by her. Quickly, he lifts his foot off the man and tells her to calm down. As he leaves, he says he'll kill all of them later anyway. He then enters the door and walks out. She immediately rushes to Park's body and says that, as expected, he's not dead yet. Right away, Amanda calls the man with the stretcher to help Park. She says that definitely his left hand saved his life, because he used his hand to prevent the piercing from hitting any vital point. Fight Ward staff rushed to provide assistance to the man. The vice director says that Han Min-soo is a complete monster. He asks how the blonde could use his fingers as weapons like that. Kim says the doping he received is incredibly special. He explains that his doping enhances muscles, ligaments, and tendons to an absolutely monstrous level, completely different from regular strength doping. And to sum it up, he's just as different and functional as Kang, because his bones are also enhanced and stronger. The vice says that in that case, they should bring Han to their side. Kim says that Han Min-soo is a fighter directly managed by the director, so it wouldn't be easy at all. But he tells the vice not to worry because there are still many good fighters in Fight Ward, including the ones in the next round. The vice asks if the next match is the one with the girl who fights using capoeira. Kim confirms, and the old man asks if capoeira isn't just a dance. The man explains that it only looks like a dance, and when Portugal colonized Brazil, slaves used it in the slave quarters and at work. He explains that it was created as a way to defend themselves from the brutality they suffered under slavery, and that it resembles a dance to disguise it so the overseers wouldn't realize they were training. He says it's a martial art with a dark past, and after Brazil's independence, it was used in many crimes. It was even banned by the country's government, so it's not just a normal practice, it's dangerously offensive. We then see Amanda Groshi again, the 19-year-old capoeirista. The drone announces that all players have entered the arena. Amanda sees her opponent looking back.
This is Go Hyuk-soo, the rank 10 fighter who practices various martial arts. The drone says the match between the two will begin now. Amanda takes on a fighting stance generally called Jinga, while her opponent remains still. She says that, as expected, he's underestimating her, since he hasn't even taken a fighting stance. Attacking, she says this gives her the chance to strike first, but the blonde guy puts a crazy smile on his face and gets ready to make his move. Our video ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye-bye.